Okay.
Recording is started.
Ooh, sorry about that. Schizophrenic. There we go. Okay. Huh. All right. Thanks everybody for bearing with us there. I appreciate that. So here's our agenda for the night. We're going to very quickly just cover off on a couple of protocols for the rest of the meeting. And then we have a little presentation and Q&A with Principal Bacon. He's going to talk about kind of the latest COVID numbers, protocols, outlook, et cetera. And then kind of the meat of our meeting tonight will be a conversation with our amazing counselors who are going to talk about how to not only, keep our kids sort of physically healthy, but make sure that we're doing our best to take care of their mental health as well. And then we're going to have a few updates from PTO, the PTO board, and Hoi Fu Win. And then we'll end with some breakout rooms. We have some conversation topics, and I think we're just going to do kind of a mix and match and sort some people around so that you can meet new members of the community. So that's the agenda. In terms of meeting management, for those of you less familiar with Zoom, this just points out where some of the controls are. One thing I want to point out here is as Principal Bacon is giving his presentation and as others are asking questions, if you have a question, you can go ahead and type it into the chat, which you can see here. Then I will read those questions to him and, kind of try to, combine questions if some are on the same topic and whatnot, just so we can get through and address everybody's questions and concerns. So just throw those questions into the chat and you can start doing that now. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to you, Michael.
Great. Well, good evening, everybody. Excited to be here. Happy New Year. As we come off of one New Year's celebration, we're heading towards another one, our TET. It's fun to be at a school where we get to celebrate both. I'm excited about that. Obviously, as Tracy said, I want to share a few things about where we are with COVID, because I'm sure that's often on many people's and most people's minds all the time, especially as we try to keep everybody safe and healthy. So I've been trying to send out data every day, just so because as you all know, the Omicron surge has really overwhelmed the reporting system to the degree where the district's dashboard is not staying current. And things have really changed quite a bit because Omicron has a lot of different aspects to it or characteristics to it in terms of, and our protocol having to shift to catch up with that. And then of course, then how that ends up changing how we report on a regular basis. So first and foremost, I track every day what our attendance is. So how many kids are we actually having absent? And then I'm also looking at the number of new positive cases that get reported. Sometimes those positive cases, of course, because of the way the testing is going, is it's taking for some families 3 to 5 days even, that we're not necessarily getting a report for a case that actually probably started, 5 days ago. So watching those numbers in terms of new positives, and then also trying to provide data about number of kids who are either they're quarantined or because of an exposure or that pending that testing. So since winter break up to today, we've had a total of 40 student cases reported. Positives since winter break. A number of those were the ones that happened over winter break and were reported to just as we came back. We also have, we always get a bump. So today is one of those bumps because of the OHSU testing occurs and some of our asymptomatic students show up in that testing, the spit test that we've been doing. So yesterday, for example, we only had one new positive case, and today we had actually we had 8, I think we had 8 new ones, no, 10, I'm sorry, 10 new ones today. And that was a large part because of the OHSU contacting families about that. So of those 40, however, already a good number of them have already finished their quarantine and are well and healthy and back at school. So we have about 7 students that are pending right now in terms of their reports. It doesn't mean that there aren't other cases that we haven't heard about, because sometimes families don't report those to it. So it's very important that we do get that information as soon as possible so we can help monitor at school and keep everybody safe and healthy. Our numbers, the big question for a lot of families that has been to me has been, one other data piece, I'm sorry, staff. We only have 2 members of our staff, one classroom teacher and one non-classroom teacher, who are actually out due to a COVID related exposure or test positive. So we've been very, very fortunate at Rose City Park, because almost all of our classroom teachers have been able to stay healthy and are showing up every day. So I just applaud our amazing teachers and their commitment. And not that other schools don't have that, but it's really fortunate, because that allows us to continue in-person education, which we know is highly beneficial for our kids. There's a lot of data and research showing that online doesn't work for a lot of our students. So anyway, so we are fortunate to be able to do there. A question that's coming up a lot is whether we would go virtual or not. So far, we have not had to do that. There are a number of variables, number of things that we will look at. And of course, number one is probably the number of teachers in our classrooms. And so far that's been good. And then of course, the number of students is another major one. So far, we've been sitting around 15% of our students being out, of which only a third of those are really ones that are truly positive or exposed that we know about. There's some obviously we don't know about. And there are other reasons. There's been a flu bug going around. There's been other reasons, vacations or different absences, appointments or whatever, that also contribute to that. So we don't have all the reasons exactly, because they're not all reported to us. But relatively speaking, to the schools that are going online, they can look at 40% or half their kids being absent. And thus needing really to go online to support those kids. So it's a daily check for me and my team, and that we are monitoring that really carefully and closely. And we're also really paying attention to mask wearing and social distancing really tightly in school. And our students, I really applaud our parents, our families, because all of our students show up and have that mask on, are ready to go, trying to do a good job of keeping it tight fitted. So that's where we're at. I'll share those out. I know it can be unnerving and a lot of angst, because I believe we're expecting this to peak and really start declining big end of next week. So hopefully we'll ride this out and be able to stay all in person and keep school going at Rose City Park as we normally do. If we do need to make the switch, we are ready to do that, but we don't want to do that. So I'll leave it there. That's where we're update and open it up for questions.
So first, there's some just kind of general appreciation for your sending out the daily numbers. Note that that's been helpful for folks. And then most of the rest of the discussion is around false positives. Crystal, there's just, can you explain more about the false positive info? Crystal says that some folks got an email saying they had a positive and then a second saying it was negative. And after talking to OHSU, they determined it was, I guess, a glitch on their part.
Yeah.
Add to that.
I'm not sure I can give you a full update on why that occurred. I'm fully aware that it occurred, and it really was not on our end. That came from the OHSU end. I will try to find some more information if I can get that into my next message or some message out. I honestly, there was a lot going on today, just with a lot of those different reports coming in and us trying to make sure we're following up on any kind of contact tracing that's necessary to do that. So, and I was also supposed to be in an all-day training today, trying to do that in between. I'm doing it. So, I don't know exactly, Crystal, but we will try to get a better answer out of OHSU around that. And false positives do occur. Although I will tell you what the research says is that OHSU testing has been one of the more accurate tests about the Omicron. So it's hard when we have a false positive like that. That's unfortunate that came out. So I apologize. We'll try to figure out more about why that occurred.
Great. There's a question from Sally. Do you feel like you have a big enough substitute teacher pool to cover absences?
That's probably the question the district office asks every day. So great question. Here's a couple of things in response to that. One is Rose City Park, fortunately, is a place where a lot of subs actually choose where they want to be. And they have a right every day to choose where they go, what jobs they pick up. So we've been very lucky and fortunate that in almost every case we've had someone pick up. In the case where we've had some that haven't, we have a little bit of built-in capacity within our staff. I hired a reading teacher. I don't like to pull her very often, but she's great in the classroom, but she's ready to step in and knows what kids needs and knows the kids well and knows our school and our program. So she has been another person for us to tap. And we have an instructional specialist as well. The other piece that I will say to that is so far is, for example, this week we had a case where there wasn't a sub on 2 days, and the district stepped up, sending us one of their teachers on special assignment who are highly skilled, highly experienced teachers, and they've been able to step in. So far, we've actually been good. And I think that would be, obviously, if there became a point where that wasn't the case, that's when we might have to consider virtual.
There's a question. Do you know what percentage of kids are participating in the OHSU testing program?
It's about half. It's about half. I think it might actually, it may be even over half. I think we have 243 or so, and we have about 450 students currently. So it's actually over half.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Question from Emily about having PE inside. The thought being that there have been a number of days where PE has happened indoors, where potentially it seems like it could have happened outdoors. Concern about, kids exerting themselves, breathing heavily, etc. And it seems like having them outdoors as much as possible would be great.
Yeah, I've seen them start to move more outdoors when it's not raining. Like we had a week where it was almost raining every single day, and I know they have to make that call and try to figure out what the activities and so forth. So yeah, I think we can certainly continue to push towards, just like lunch. The more we can get out there, the better off we will be in terms of making sure that we're protecting and keeping kids safe. So I also know that in the design of the PE activities, our teachers do a great job of not having kids close at all, but really being distance and trying to keep that and maintain that, and all masks on as well. They're not unmasked in that at all. And there is also keeping the doors open to the gym, and that it's cold in there, I can tell you, because I'm in there for lunch duty, and we keep that completely open and moving with the HEPA filters on as well. So, but I appreciate that, and we will continue to push for, as weather gets better, like tomorrow looks like a great day, relatively speaking. So lunch, PE, if we can be outside, we will push for that.
Great. Question about, back to OHSU testing. Question being, if we're not signed up yet, is it too late? And then when had a similar experience that I actually have, which is signed up but didn't get the tests. So what do we do if we're either not getting tests or we didn't sign up in the first place and want to participate?
Yeah, so I know this has come up with several families, or at least a number of families. So first of all, the first question about if you aren't signed up and you want to be signed up, we would love to have you signed up. It is not too late. There is a link in the biweekly. In fact, I'll try to send it out again. There's a link that I put in my biweekly newsletter from last Friday that has the link to the testing to sign up for that. So if you haven't done that, you can also come into the office. I know that for a long time we've kept people out, but as some point in November, we started letting people come in, and if you want to fill out an application there, you can also submit it and in our office. So I would love to have 451 people in OHSU testing, because it's really, I think we could get a much more accurate and ability to adapt. I realize there are several families. I would really like you to email, if you can, or call into our office. We have a liaison. Well, the breakdown could happen in multiple points. So we'll own if it's a breakdown on our part, and we need to get that filled in and fixed. It could be the kid dropping it off or wherever that piece is. We also turn all that over to OHSU, and we have a liaison in the district who follows up on those issues. And we just need to get that your information back, because once it goes off to OHSU, it's a confidentiality issue, and we're not privy to that information because of the testing confidentiality piece. So we don't get the information; it stays with them. We do have a box in our Synergy, which is our student. We have all your student family information there, and it does say in our box whether or not it's been submitted, so that we can tell, and we can quickly do that in our front office. So please call Madeline Tron or Amanda Anderson in the office, or you can email. You can copy me on that as well, and then also you can just come in.
Great. And Ms. Nguyen Johnson has dropped in OHSU email address in the chat.
Yes, as always, Ms. Nguyen Johnson is right on it. She's great.
Yes. And there's a consent form, a link in the chat to a consent form as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
There's a question about the current need for lunch volunteers.
What's the question? Do we need lunch volunteers?
Yes. How are we doing with the need for lunch volunteers?
Here's what I'm gonna say. So first of all, I want to say a big thank you. Last week, we were out, we were only at one classroom teacher. We were out 6 people in the sort of front office, and a lot of people who do duty. And so I was such a relief for me, because I was doing all of lunch duty, and we had 3 parent volunteers almost every day. And that made a huge difference. I would say that anytime we can have parent volunteers, that also might allow us to even do some outside time and have inside and outside kind of thing, but we can't commit to that unless we have supervision. We can't have a certain group of kids unsupervised. So if we could continue to have people sign up through the PTO, I think you have it right on your Facebook. If we can continue to sign up, that would be great. We can always use more. I mean, obviously we don't need lots of people. We can't have them, but if we could have 2 or 3 every day throughout the entire lunch duty, that would make it, especially with our little ones who often need help opening things or going to the bathroom or whatever it might be, that can really help.
Yeah, and I'll just add, if you want to see the most recent sign up form, Sign Up Genius for volunteering, it's also on Slack and Facebook, and let us know if you have any trouble finding it. So lots of information, everybody in the chat. Trisha added a 800 number that she called, and they were able to track down the problem. So
the problem
with receiving tests, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we have reached the end of the questions, and that's kind of perfect timing.
Great.
If anyone thinks of something, wants to drop something in later, we'll get an answer for you. So you can continue to drop it into chat, or post it on the PTO Facebook page, what have you. And Ms. Nguyen Johnson says the next batch of tests will go home tomorrow. So look out for those as well.
Yeah. And I think there's going to be, Ms. Nguyen Johnson, is it 5? I think we have 5 tests going on. Is that right?
The plan is to try and get through to the next February holiday break, which is President's Day.
Great. So lots of tests. Okay.
Right. Thank you very much. Like Tracy said, please, questions, we are there. This is not the end of the opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. And next, we are going to turn it over to Ms. Pesha and Ms. Sylvie to introduce themselves and take us through a few slides about, as I said, kind of making sure we're attending to our kiddos' mental health needs. And then there'll be some time for Q&A with them as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Tracy. I can go ahead and introduce myself. So I'm Pesha Wasserstrom. I'm a counselor. I primarily work with our kindergarten, first and second graders. And this is my 3rd year at Rose City Park. And I'll let Sylvie introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Sylvie and I work mainly with the 3rd through 5th graders. And this is my 1st year full-time as a counselor, but I also was lucky enough to get to intern at Rose City Park last year. So 2nd year in that way. All right, we can go to the next slide. So as we are all really well aware, the last couple of years have been quite a stressful time. And we certainly are seeing, the signs of that stress in kids at school and hearing from families about similar signs at home. And some of those don't necessarily show up at school, so we may not always see the same behaviors at school and at home. But we did want to just talk about a few of these kind of changes that you might want to look out for, just to be aware of how to support your kids when they are feeling extra stressed. So just to go quickly through, like if you're noticing any emotional changes, like your child withdrawing, maybe more situations where they're getting emotionally dysregulated, seeing kind of more of that low frustration tolerance is something that we often see at school when kids are stressed. And then you might notice some behavioral changes too, maybe just being more prone to conflict, seeing changes in their academic performance or interest in academics. And then also any signs of physical changes might be things related to eating less or more, changes in their sleep, maybe not being able to sleep as well, or any changes in hygiene. Those are kind of the things that we tend to look out for and are things that we'd encourage you to look out for as well. You can go to the next slide. Thank you.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about managing stress. We're doing lessons in all of our classes about emotional regulation, and that's one of the tools. We're going to talk later a little bit about our toolbox, our social emotional learning curriculum, but these are just some really kind of quick ways to help manage the kind of stress that we're seeing. If you're seeing your kids, one thing I'm hearing a lot from parents is just the things that Sylvie was talking about, these higher levels of stress that kids are experiencing and the way they're coming out at home. So, that top one I think is so important, just listening, validating, reflecting feelings and emotions. I think something we work on a lot at school is that naming feelings, helping kids just put words to their feelings to kind of externalize what they're experiencing, giving time to de-escalate after conflict or frustration, giving some space to pause and breathe before trying to process or unpack. Spending time outside whenever possible. Obviously, that's great right now for lots of reasons. There's so much research showing the benefit of being outside and physical activity. This is one that we're working on as a whole staff and actually going to be coming up in the next few weeks as we're getting into more climate work, modeling emotional regulation, right? Having the adults around our kids practicing these things ourselves, right? It starts first with modeling our own emotional regulation and our own conflict resolution skills and taking care of ourselves, providing emotional support with academic and social challenges. You know, we frame that way, kind of as opposed to pressure. I think now is a really hard time for a lot of kids academically. A lot of school was missed, so really supporting those challenges. And then I think all kids really benefit from as much structure and routine as possible, which can be challenging, but keeping that consistency through such a traumatic and quickly changing time. You can go to the next slide. Thank you.
All right, so like Ms. Pasha said, one of the things that we work on as a skill with the kids is identifying and naming feelings. So one of the tools that we use for that is called the zones of regulation. So this is one of the graphics that we use in our lessons with students to help introduce them to this idea. And it can be a really helpful way to just kind of give, associate a color to kind of categories of feelings, help them think about how each of those feelings feels in their body, and help them name and be able to express more clearly what they are feeling. One thing that I always make sure to communicate to students is there are no bad zones. So it's okay to feel whatever they're feeling, but we also know that being in the green zone is the zone that makes it easiest for them to be ready to learn and feel calm and focused for school. So it is usually our goal to help them get back to the green zone for when they're at school, so they can have the best opportunity to learn. And I think, a lot of this has to do with self-awareness and helping them understand kind of what are the things that happen around them or to them that put them in these different zones. So starting to kind of build that skill of self-awareness with them too. Then we have a Vietnamese version on the next slide as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and as I mentioned, as I'm sure most of you are familiar with Toolbox, this is our third year as a school using Toolbox. So Toolbox is a whole school social emotional learning curriculum. And, we focus on one tool a week and move through them. The teachers are teaching the tools as a lesson in the class, and there's follow-up activities. And then we kind of reflect that language as a whole school. And a lot of our students have been using this now for several years. So these are tools that even if we haven't gotten all the way through to the end of the tools for this year, a lot of our students already know them. So we're using in conflict resolution, we'll talk about the garbage can tool. We let the little things go. If we have a small conflict, we throw it away. Or the quiet, safe place tool, which is all about taking a step back if you're needing to go into a calming place. Or the using our words tool. Right now, we're on the taking time tool. And I was just in a classroom today and, saw their lesson all about, when you're in the middle of a conflict, you can take time away, or you can choose to step away and then come back. And I think that this curriculum has a lot of really positive things about it. We may be moving to a different curriculum next year. We'll share more about that. But I think even if we do, we'll continue to reinforce these tools. And Mr. Bacon has been sending out the tool of the week to parents in his biweekly newsletter. And we also later in the presentation have a link to the portal where you can find more information if you're wanting to kind of match this language at home. Okay, you can go to the next one. Thank you.
All right, so in addition to talking about zones of regulation and feelings, part of one of our lessons, and often we reinforce this in a lot of our lessons actually, we introduce some different tools to students about, okay, so
that was in tune with the beatbox.
sorry, I think someone needs to mute. That about how to help get back to the green zone. So if they're, if they are feeling angry, frustrated in the red zone, maybe feeling worried or anxious in the yellow zone, or a little bit sad and in the blue zone, these are some tools that can help kind of bring them back. So we talk a lot about deep breathing, and we know, the science behind those deep belly breaths, that if you really breathe deeply in your belly, it stimulates the vagus nerve, which sends that signal to your body and brain to calm down. So that's one of my favorite tools, and that's part of the toolbox curriculum tools. Two is the breathing tool. And then that second one, 5 senses grounding, is really helpful just to, especially if someone's feeling anxious, kind of bring them back into the present moment and just sort of start to notice, use those senses to notice what's around you. And that can kind of break that pattern or cycle of anxiety. This third one, dots and squeezes, is just, some sort of sensory stimulation, squeezing your arms and hands. Positive self-talk, I think, is also a really important one, because often we might not realize, both as kids and adults, that the messages that we're saying to ourselves are quite negative. And that's something that we can practice, is realizing, especially if you're facing something you're nervous about or frustrated about, that the messages we say to ourselves can be really powerful in helping us kind of turn that around. Patient mentioned the quiet safe place tool, so just kind of reinforcing that can be an imaginary place or a real place where you feel just comfortable and safe, and that going there in your mind can be really comforting. And then, of course, always the option to talk to a trusted friend or adult, including us as the counselors. You can go to the next slide.
So we just put some of the ways, we do a lot of different things in the building every day. But one of those things is support families, and we're always available to check in. I'm having a lot of conversations right now with parents just about things they're seeing at home and struggles that are happening. Even if we're not seeing those behaviors at all, we're available to talk through what you're seeing at home, and helping support with whether it's referring to mental health services or just helping kind of problem solve whatever's going on with your kiddo, or to meet in person or virtually is always an option. We do a lot of individual check-ins with students. So a lot of students will reach out to us. We have several different mailboxes where they can write to us or draw us little notes. Kids also just come up to us and ask to check in. We also have a referral form through our website if you would like to refer a student for individual check-ins. And again, we'll be sharing that in the presentation here. We also do a lot of restorative conflict resolution at school. Anytime there's conflict between students, sitting down and talking through it and helping arrive at resolution together. Providing mental health resources, individually, but also to our students at school. We do have a therapist through Cascadia Behavioral Health who can see a pretty, unfortunately, small caseload of students. He's full right now, but we are able to refer in-house and then connect as best we can to mental health services outside of the building as well, connecting to community resources. And we actually have a new person working with IRCO, providing community resources. We work closely with Kim Kenyon, our Sunstate manager, providing food resources to whatever extent possible, things like rental assistance and other financial resources to families. And then, spending time in classrooms doing not only the emotional regulation lessons that we were talking about, all different kinds of lessons about those conflict resolution skills, but we are currently doing lessons focusing on racial justice and equity that all the counselors in PPS are implementing across the district. A 4-lesson series that we're starting now. The first lesson focuses on identity, and the second is on diversity, and the third is on race and racism, and the fourth is on making change. And we also do the class circles, if there's a conflict that connects to the whole class.
All right, so now just want to give some links to some of the resources that we have available. So as Patient mentioned, we have our own counseling website, and there is a version in Vietnamese, and that links to many other resources through that website. We also have a fun virtual counseling office that's like more geared towards kids. So it has like images and things that link to read alouds and videos of read alouds and other like calming videos, that kind of thing. And then the district also created a virtual calming room last year that has a lot of like mindfulness videos and other helpful resources for helping kids calm down. And we have another link to Toolbox there. And last, just, if there is ever a crisis situation or like mental health emergency, the Multnomah County crisis line is available 24 hours a day. So that's always good to know about as well. I think that's all that we had. So we have a chance now to open it up for questions.
There's a few things in the chat. First of all, just some an appreciation also. I think this is with regard to the zones of regulation in the toolbox. It says, thank you both for this. It's great to have a common language for emotional well-being. And related to that, a question, is there a zones of regulation visual somewhere that can be downloaded, printed at home?
Oh, I think you're muted, Paige.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have that image as a PDF, and I'm happy to send it to anyone. We could even, Mr. Bacon could even attach it to his next, message out to everybody. But Sally, I can also just email it to you in the short term. But I think we'll make sure it gets available. It is on our website, a version of it, but I'm not sure if you'll be able to download it from that. So. Oh, okay. Thanks, Sally. Yeah. Well, how about we'll have Mr. Bacon send it out to everybody.
And then the best way to request a phone consultation with the counselor.
Yeah. So in our website there, all of our contact information is there. I would say the most straightforward thing is just to email us. But you also can fill out, we have a form. If you want to give us a little more information, we have like a Google form that's like a check-in request, but it has the option to fill it out as a parent.
You can also always call the office. They can connect you to our office phone. And yeah, our contact info is in an earlier slide here too. So whatever way is easiest for you to get in touch with us is fine with us.
Great. I have a question. I'm just curious, your observation of the school year thus far. Do you feel like you're seeing have you seen a big improvement from, late August or whenever we started to now in how kids are now kind of self-regulating and doing? I'm just curious what your observations are.
It's a great question. I think it kind of has gone both ways in some ways. Like there are certain, when I think about this time a year ago and I think about the isolation and just the sadness that so many of our kids were experiencing, I think a lot of kids feel, to me, happier and more connected. And so that's really heartening. At the same time, I think the challenges of the pandemic are catching up with us in some ways. There are new challenges now. Part of, I think, especially in our younger grades, we have so many students who really didn't get kindergarten or first grade. And so the expectations, the way to be in school, the way to be in a classroom, like some of that was missed. And so there's kind of new challenges of catching students up at first grade, second grade, third grade. I don't know, Sylvia, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think on the one hand, it's so great to be in person. And I do think that is giving kids chances, just to engage in with their classmates and with the school community in ways that were hard to do online. And that's I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, I think the catching up part, that's going to be something we'll continue to see for a while, just because, there was a significant loss of that sort of socialization of being around other kids. And so, yeah, I think there's kind of both of those things happening at the same time. Definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that response. Thanks. Anybody else? Any last questions before we move along? I think that might be it. Well, I know I speak for a huge chunk of the community when I say we're super grateful we have both of you, and thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Oops. Okay. Now we're going to talk real quick about sort of some top level PTO goings on. Largely what we're hoping everyone can help us do is help weigh in on our budget. So our amazing treasurer, Heather, is going to kind of take you through a top line of the budget this year and get approval. We're going to ask everyone to vote via chat. And then we're going to talk about trying to get community input on some discretionary PTO funds, which is a thing we haven't done before, and we're going to give a shot this year. But just generally, here's a few things that we're talking about right now. One is kind of reimagining our board election process. Moving away from the idea of elections per se, and this notion of like a competitive race. That's not what we're about. That's not what we're doing. What we do want to do is grow our board, bring new voices in, bring more representation in, bring more diversity in. That's really an area we've been focused on this year. And we talked about this at our last community meeting, but we have launched a representation committee that is run by Annie Hopman, our vice president, and there will be ongoing meetings that we would love for folks to join in. There'll be more about that. And we're just looking for new ways to engage the community and make sure that the work that we're doing in the PTO is aligned with what is needed and wanted by the community, and that we're as relevant as we can possibly be. So as I mentioned, we're going to try something new this year. And that is that we're going to be sending out a survey. It is already created. We are translating it now, but it's going to go out in backpacks and it's going to be available online as well. So you'll have a couple of different options. But we want to get your thoughts on how to spend. We have $1,500 of discretionary funds, sort of over and above, what we had budgeted. And we want community input on how best to use those dollars. So there's kind of this immediate ask of how should we spend these funds? And then a longer term, where do you think our priorities should lie? And then kind of an open response, like, tell us what the PTO should be working on. So I really encourage you to take a moment and fill that out when it comes your way. We're excited to, kind of base our decisions on community input. And then with that, I am going to hand things over to Heather, who's going to take you through our budget for this school year.
All right, thanks, Tracy. So this is kind of an overview for our budget for the year. We began the 21-22 school year with a little under $15,000. This is a little bit higher than we were expecting due to spring events not happening last year. So we kind of started out in a pretty good space. We have a passive fundraising that we will be doing. That's going to be our Amazon Smile and our Fred Meyer Rewards, Bottle Drop. Active fundraising, which is our apple sales, pie sales. And we have our RCP swag, which is our yard sales that you've probably seen at various events, as well as the apparel that we're helping with. And general donations and employee matches. So if you are teaming up with your employer and they're doing a match for our school, those are the funds that we are putting into that line. So we are expecting to raise a little under $8,000 for this year. So far, I know we're pretty far into the school year. We're right on track with that. In terms of our budgeted expenses, we are going to be putting money towards community expenses. This is going to be our community events that we're holding, like the ice cream social, as well as our community workshops. So we held one of those last year. We're hoping to do another one this year. Teacher and staff support, providing support directly to our staff and showing our appreciation for them. This is by far our largest expense that we are budgeting for the year. Student expenses, this is going to cover some emergency funds, providing for lunch payoff for our 5th grade students before they head off of the school, as well as Read for the Roses. And then we have school expenses, which is just our, oops, sorry, checking my wrong mouse here, is going to be towards the library as well as safety and grounds. And then lastly, we have PTO expenses, which is just kind of general expenses for maintaining the PTO. This will go towards insurance, website fees, translation, printing costs, that type of thing. And then we are hoping to end the year with around $7,750. This is kind of our golden number to help with our cash flow as we start our next school year, because we are hopeful and anticipating a more normal year so we can have some of those kind of fall activities kick off. So Tracy, if you want to flip to the next one. So here's what it looks like. So if we were to break it down, our income that we are anticipating is by far driven by our active fundraising. So big thanks to all of the families who are helping with those sales. We know it's a lot of work to put them on, but it is one of our biggest fundraisers. This year we did not have Rose City Park After Dark, but we are hopeful that next year we'll have that. So this is just those pie apple sales that we have. Another big one that's kind of an increasing one is those general donations. So you've probably seen it in past communications, but we do have a general link up on our website. So at any time you can go and make a donation to the PTO. But again, we appreciate everything that's come in thus far, and we kind of anticipate that to stay around 20%. And then the swag and the yard signs, that's kind of like our smallest piece, which is a newer thing for us that we've just kind of added on since last year. All right, can we go to the next one? Expenses. So as I mentioned, our teacher and staff support is by far our largest expense. That's how it has always kind of been for us. And then the next one is going to be the student expenses and then the community expenses. And that's where we're kind of looking for some feedback on how we can use that fund. So a lot of that community expense is related to that $1,500 that Tracy had mentioned, that we're kind of seeking some input to make sure that we're spending those funds in the way that our community supports. So those are kind of our big expenses for the year. PTO and the school expenses are kind of like our smaller ones. This budget itself, I have like a detailed spreadsheet. If anybody has any questions or would like more detail about what kind of rolls up into these categories, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to provide it. But in the meantime, this is what we are proposing for the current year. And again, we're seeking feedback so that we can kind of help start the conversations now on how to improve this budget going forward for next year. So I think that's, oh yes, and we have a new fundraiser that I think we just decided on related to honey jars, which I don't know much about. Someone might have to fill that one in. So I think that what we're looking for is to approve the budget for the 21-22 school year. And I believe that we're doing that via the chat tonight.
Exactly.
So a thumbs up, and I approve if you can, looking for a majority.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you, Heather. Appreciate that. Keep those responses coming. Much appreciated. Okay. So we do have a quick look at what's coming up here. Let's see. Quinn, I'm going to ask you to speak to this first sale. Can you tell us, give us a quick overview of that?
Yes, this one is because you'll see on the third item on the 31st, there is a Video Live virtual TET celebration. So we did have Principal Bacon send out a remind message to all families that HBH is going to be doing a Vietnamese traditional ao dai sale for any families who would like to purchase one for their child, because it's not just for Lunar New Year's. We're hoping to do cultural enrichment on the ice cream social and the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival this coming school year, for fall, if that was an occasion, and if anyone happened to purchase an ao dai, they could again wear it for that occasion. This one is basically a very quick fundraiser that we're just doing a one day. If anyone in the Video Live family needs ao dai, or anyone in the neighborhood also wants to have an ao dai for their child, but don't know where to go and get them, I just put it up there.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we have a long weekend coming up. I don't know if you all saw that. Friday the 28th has long been a professional development day, but then hopefully you got an email or text saying that the Monday the 31st had been added. So that's now a 4-day weekend. And then we've got TET coming up, and Quinn can speak more to that in a moment if you like. And then we have our second year of the Read for the Roses program. And this is our kind of reading literacy, and also, with a tie into a Vietnamese cultural program. We did it over a few months last year, but this year it's going to be just the month of February. So game cards will be going out where your students can track how many their reading progress over the month and be eligible for prizes. And we have a couple of really incredible authors who are going to be giving talks as part of that program as well. So more information will be coming out, but we have that to look forward to in February. There's a district board meeting if anyone cares to attend on the 8th of February. You can find more information at pps.net. No school on President's Day. That's Monday, the 21st of February. And then we have Literacy Night coming up as well. There will be more information from Ms. Ivester coming out about that. And then, yes, as was mentioned via chat, we have a new fundraiser that we're introducing this year, which is a honey sale. Liz, do you want to say anything about that real quick?
Yes, I'd love to.
Awesome.
So we order forms will be sent out with the newsletter, and I've partnered with a company called Raw Oregon Honey, and we'll be selling 24-ounce jars of honey for $20. Yeah, so look at the newsletter for information about that. The order forms will be due back February 18th.
Awesome. And I don't know if, gosh, is Annie Ozels on? Yes, I see you. Annie, do you want to say anything? I know that I didn't have the garden committee kickoff meeting on here. Do you want to say anything about that real quick?
Yeah, sure. So on next Wednesday, the 26th, so hopefully before everybody heads out for a long weekend, at 6 p.m. we'll be having our first garden committee meeting, which is basically my husband's back apparently.
I'm sorry.
I'm just in the middle of everything right now. But, yeah, so we'll be having our very first garden committee meeting. We have just gotten PPS approval to move forward with more detailed planning on a garden, on expanding the garden space, thinking about all kinds of things like deep paving, adding more garden space, garden beds, and then it also includes, all the maintenance that we need to be doing in the space right now. So we would love to have folks get involved in that process. We need all kinds of talented folks, whether it's, I know, deep paving. So we have a broad strokes vision right now, and what we need is folks who are willing to come jump in and really help us paint a more detailed picture of what we want to accomplish as a community in that space. So we would love to have you come join us at 6 p.m. next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Annie. And yes, thank you for everything that you have done and are doing to make that garden space incredible. We really appreciate it. Here's a quick look at your current PTO board. And I just wanted to take a moment to, first of all, thank each and every one of these folks for their very hard work. Many of these people are in their second year of board service. Some are in their third or fourth year of holding down really huge roles to help the school. And so it's just a reminder to me to let folks know that we need an infusion of new talent as folks are coming into the school and kind of getting their feet under them in the community. We really hope that you will consider joining the board, and we'll be providing information in coming months about kind of what some of those roles look like. They're not really scary, I promise. And what sort of help we need. The short answer is anything and everything. And we'll try to provide some opportunities for you to learn more and kind of casually check it out and consider joining us for the next school year. It really is a great way to meet different folks in the community that you might not have occasion to interact with otherwise. That's certainly something that I've found. So again, thank you to current board, and to all potential and future board members. I look forward to chatting with you and hopefully bringing you on board. If you are interested in reaching out to us, there's any number of ways you can do so, including like Hey You on the playground. But on the PTO website, under the contact tab, you'll see this form on the left, and the blue box says volunteer with the PTO. And what that links you to is just a Google form that lets you indicate your interests, right? Like, I'd love to help out in the garden. I would really just like to volunteer at lunchtime. It just lets you kind of state your preferences. And then of course you can always email me or Annie. You can reach out through Slack or Facebook. We'll try to give you just any number of ways to contact us. Now I'm going to turn it over to Huynh Poole to talk about what's going on with Hoi Fu Win.
Thank you, Tracy. Hi, everyone. I am Huynh Poole. I am one of the co-presidents of Hoi Fu Huynh. I believe, I don't know if my other co-president, Anle, is here.
He's here.
Hi. So we are a parent group that is we support the Vietnamese dual language immersion program, not only at Rose City Park, but at Roseway Heights Middle School, which is currently 6th and 7th grade. And in the future, it will be at McDaniel High School as well. Just like, PTAs and PTOs, we deal specifically in the VDLI, but oftentimes we will have very fun cultural enrichment things that we want to engage our whole school community. So for instance, I know some parents, you guys have probably gotten some things sent home to you from your teachers this week regarding arts and craft relating to the Vietnamese Tết or Lunar New Year's. And that is like one way that we engage. And other ways are the past events that we've partnered with PTO, such as Ice Cream Social and the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival. That one, you know, we want to be able to build a partnership with our community like we have been doing strongly this year with the PTO, to let the school community know that even if your child is not part of our program or is a part of the program, that they feel like Rose City Park, Roseway Heights, and in the future McDaniel, it's a whole school community for them. So that's what we're about in PPS, only in PPS actually. So Hoi Fu Wen is not for any other school district, it's in PPS for the 3 schools in PPS. You could go to the next slide.
Oops.
So this is the most recent picture that was taken by our art teacher. This was one of the enrichment activities that we engage with our teachers, not only on the VDLI side, but we try to engage all of our teachers to say, hey, we have some things that, you know, we do with our VDLI students and the teachers, but we also want your participation if teachers want to, such as our art teacher. We said, hey, you know, New Year's is coming up. Here are some things you could do with the kids in class that they can do. And you see the pictures there, really cool, you know, dragon mask and lions and tigers. We basically want to celebrate the Vietnamese culture while making diverse connections and ensuring that's equitable opportunities to help cultivate global change leaders. So like if you see any, you know, Vietnamese parents and their kids and your kid is not in the program, don't be shy, say hi, no, hold a conversation, ask us questions like food. If you go to like any Asian markets or you have a particular dish you like because you visited a restaurant or you saw it on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, you know, like hold a conversation with some of the parents. They'll love feeding you stuff. We love feeding people food, great foods and all that stuff. So we're just really excited to get to know our community, get to know our families, and engaging our families more with the whole school itself. I know that in the past, it hasn't been so uniformed, but now we want to make sure that any events that we hold for VDLI, that our whole school celebrates with us, you know, across the district. District will be a bigger task, but we're getting there. And Tracy, the PTO members have done such an amazing job at just building this relationship so that our students and our teachers can feel the full support, especially in COVID times this past few years. So I'm just saying, as one of the co-presidents, and I know that many of our board members on HPH, we're really proud of all the work that our families have come together and done for the teachers and their, you know, their kids and their kids' peers. And we're really proud of just being a part of this association and connecting with our community. And thank you for, you know, inviting us to being a part of this discussion as well and sharing with you all what we do, what we believe in, and what we hope to share with the community. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Wen. Man, I really just think that the VDLI program is such a huge asset to our school, you know, whether your kid is in it or not, like the cultural enrichment activities, the events. Hopefully many of you guys had a chance to come to the Autumn Moon Festival. It was amazing. You know, the Tết virtual program this year is going to be great when it's back in person. Well, I had an opportunity to go to one of the in-person programs and it was so cool. So thank you for everything that you do for our school. It's much appreciated. Okay, oops. So breakout rooms, thank you all for sticking with us this evening. in the past, we've done these and we've tried to organize folks by grade level, and we were chatting and deciding that it might be fun just to kind of mix it up tonight. And like I say, potentially you meet some folks that that you haven't before. So let's see here. We've got some norms here for our rooms. Be sure to introduce yourself. Once you show up there, you're going to be kind of magically swept off there. Be sure to introduce yourself. Maybe say who your kids are, who you are, obviously. And then I'll throw out a topic of discussion if you need one, which is if you could name one thing that you wish the PTO were doing right now at our school, what would that one thing be? If you need a topic. And we'd really love to hear the answer to that. So, Dave, is there anything else we should say in preparation for this? Do you feel confident in your whisking abilities?
I think so. I'm gonna try to aim for like 3 to 5 people in a room, and I see that the participants in this meeting is dropping right now. So if you want to stick around, please do. If you don't, take this opportunity and drop off the call. We'll just do some social chatting and connecting with other parents at this point forward.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Whether you stay or not, thank you for being here this evening. We hope to chat with you soon.
Hi. Oh, I should stop this recording.